ever frightened me. Got a whale of a tale to tell you, lad, the whale of a tale or two, about the flapping fish and the girls I've loved on nights like this with the moon above. Whale of a tale and it's all true, I swear by my tattoo.
From EPCOT Center in Orlando, Florida, it's Disney's Living Seas with your host, John Ritter, and special guest stars Laura Branigan, Simon LeBon, the man who found the Titanic, Dr. Robert Ballard, astronaut, aquanaut Scott Carpenter, and a special video appearance by Olivia Newton-John.
Like, wait, what's that? Oh my gosh, it can't be, but it is. Lieutenant, you're not going to believe it.
Avast, ye swab, now look alive. First we bury the treasure chests, and then we'll celebrate. And not a man jack among ye shall touch a drop of rum.
The sea and its images of mystery, legend, romance, and adventure may be the most fascinating world we have left to explore. Alien life forms, lost civilizations, the unknown encounter that waits beyond the next reef. All of these mysteries await man in his quest for knowledge and learning.
Dive when ready. Hydrolators now descending to Sea Base Alpha. Sea Base Visitor Center, be advised on the approach of passengers on GBSA-1.
Tonight, through the magic of Walt Disney, you are invited to join us as we begin this unique journey beneath the sea. For the first time ever, you will visit Sea Base Alpha, the center of the Living Seas Pavilion at EPCOT Center. For more than 7 years, the dream of the Living Seas has been in the minds of Disney Imagineers, the people who bring fantasies to life for millions who visit the Disney parks in California, Tokyo, and here in Orlando, Florida.
Incoming hydrolators, prepare for pressurization. Roger, pressurized. Secure to dock forward. Hydrolator secured. Docking complete.
To allow people to experience the thrill of the underseas adventure, to watch sea life in its natural environment, and to participate in the cycle of life that is ongoing and yet constantly changing and evolving. That was their dream, and this is our reality. Oh, hey guys, thanks a lot. Oh, God. Hi, I'm John Ritter, and welcome to Sea Base Alpha. You know, the challenge of the sea is an adventure that man has wanted to undertake since the earliest days of diving tubes and long before Leonardo da Vinci designed the first known underwater breathing devices. Tonight, we're going to look at the mysteries of the seas, as writers have seen them for centuries, as the filmmakers at Disney Studios have seen them for over 50 years, and also through the eyes of some pretty fascinating people. We'll explore not only the lore and legend of the sea, but also the fact and fiction of the sea. We'll travel to the farthest depths of the ocean floor with the man who found the Titanic and compare outer space and inner space with an astronaut who's been both places. We'll also look at the lighter side of man's greatest resource through the magical eyes.
What's all this man, gibberish, man, here and there. I'm getting sick and tired of it.
Excuse me, who is that?
Hey, man, over here, look behind you. I've listened to about as much of this as I can take. Man is always taking credit for everything. It's as though we machines don't exist.
Well, of course you exist. See, man could...
See, there you go again, man.
Will you let me finish? What I was about to tell them was that man wouldn't be at the advanced state he's arrived at without the assistance of machines like you.
Well, now, that's more like it. Say, can I have a word with that camera for a minute?
Well, be my guest.
All you TV sets out there, forget previous order and just keep working for the remainder of the program. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Don't mention it.
I knew all I needed to get him on my side was a little man-to-man talk. Walt Disney's fascination with the sea goes back to the very beginning of his career as a filmmaker. His first Academy Award-winning cartoon had a nautical locale as Mickey Mouse tried to navigate his way through treacherous waters, just as we try to steer our way through life. Disney used the imagery of the sea to stir a number of emotions in his audience. Laughter was one of them. Fear was another. His spectacular vision often took the form of a true life adventure that showed us undersea life at its most placid and pleasant. Or it might manifest itself in a full-length feature that demonstrated in one short step how destructive and violent the sea could be. What happened? But whatever the medium and whatever the emotion, Walt Disney nearly always had an underlying purpose, and that was to make us more aware of the world around us. And that's what EPCOT and the Living Seas Pavilion is all about. 6.5 million gallons of water. Enough water to give everyone watching this program a 10-ounce drink and still have enough left over to quench the thirst of Albany, New York. 6.5 million gallons of water containing all the elements required for the life cycle of a living coral reef. But what makes this even more special is that people from all over the world will be able to witness life in the reef as it is and has been for millions of years. Such is the care and loving detail that has gone into this exhibit. In Walt Disney's original vision of EPCOT, the Living Seas was planned to open as part of the first phase in 1982. But as the Imagineers began the initial planning, they soon realized it was going to require a great deal more research and development than any other pavilion in the center. For one thing, it would be the first Disney attraction that would use live animals rather than the famous audio animatronic creatures found at other exhibits. The Disney planners believed wholeheartedly in the dignity of animals and were determined to avoid their exploitation. In fact, the care and training of the animals that would be the living part of the Living Seas would begin nearly a year to the day before it would open at the Animal Holding Center off the Florida Keys. Finally, this exhibit would have a scientific board of advisors who would actively participate in research once the pavilion was completed. And so while the rest of EPCOT rose on schedule and opened to the public on October 1st, 1982, the Living Seas remained a dream until Disney and United Technologies joined forces to make this dream a reality. So the imagination responsible for the Living Seas Pavilion stems from the same source that gave the world such imaginative motion pictures as Snow White, Fantasia, Mary Poppins, and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Another thrilling event occurred recently that also involved a legendary vessel, this time a real ship named the Titanic. When it embarked on its maiden voyage, it was deemed not only the finest luxury liner in the world, but virtually unsinkable. No other maritime occurrence has excited the imagination or the curiosity of scientists and writers alike more than the tragic circumstances that detailed the first and last voyage of the great ship Titanic in April of 1912. For more than 70 years, salvage experts and oceanographers had attempted first to locate the position of the Titanic, known to be some 2 miles beneath the surface, and then to determine if it was at all reachable and salvageable. It wasn't until the summer of this past year that anyone was able to pinpoint the location and actually see the ship, which had rammed an iceberg in the North Atlantic and taken the lives of over 1,500 people. The man responsible for heading that expedition is Dr. Robert Ballard. And with his ship, the Nor, he did the impossible. He found the Titanic. Dr. Ballard is one of the members of the advisory board of the Living Seas Pavilion, and his rendezvous with the Titanic seems to be only a baby step in his plan to walk the floor of the seas in the future. The true story of how he found the ship is more fascinating than any novelist could dream of, and tonight, he's with us from San Diego, California, from the Melville, the sister ship of the Nor, where he embarks later today on a 3-week expedition off the Mexican coast. Tonight, though, he's got some pictures of the Titanic never before seen on television. Dr. Ballard?
Yeah.
John Ritter.
Hi, how are you, John?
Fine, looks like you're getting ready to go out again.
Yeah, we're trying to get the vehicle ready. We sail in a few hours, so we're trying to get the last-minute preparations completed.
How long has finding the Titanic been a dream of yours?
It took 10 years of planning. It's something that I've been wanting to do for many, many years. In underwater exploration, the Titanic was a Mount Everest, something that was going to happen, and I wanted to be the one that was a part of that happening. It was really 3 years of intense preparations when we knew we were going to go, and then 2 months of actual at-sea effort during the weather window. Even though it was supposed to be the nicest time of year, we still got the dickens knocked out of us. We had a major hurricane go through. We had gales, 40-knot winds, but we had enough time that we could persevere, and Mother Nature finally yielded up the Titanic after a hard-fought battle.
You know, we've all read about your adventure with the Titanic and the technology you used to find it. Obviously, we're here looking at an example of that technology now. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, Argo is the latest in a new generation of underwater exploration vehicles. For many years, we've been using manned submarines. And the problem with going down to the ocean floor in a submarine is that you get inside the submarine and you drop towards the ocean floor, and it takes you about 2 to 2.5 hours to reach the average depth. Well, the whole concept of this new technology is what we call telepresence, projecting your soul and spirit to the bottom of the ocean, but leaving your gallbladder, your kidneys, and everything else behind. And Argo is the vehicle that carries our mind and our spirit to the ocean bottom using a series of very advanced underwater cameras.
Could you show us how it works?
Well, inside the frame of Argo are 3 cameras. They're very, very sensitive cameras. They have an ASA of about 200,000, which means the cameras can almost see in the dark. Argo's primary job is to use its low-light level TV images to find things. But once we find it, like we found the Titanic, then we want to go down and take some really close-in color pictures. Right behind the TV camera is a color camera, and when we come up, we take that film and we bring it into this lab. Come on in, we'll look at it. In the lab, after the lowering's over with, and we have the color film, particularly like when we ran over the bow of the Titanic, we give it to Martin here, and Martin loads it up into the auto processor, and then we process it, and several hours later we bring it out, and we can project it, and you saw the pretty pictures we took. Once we get Argo in the water, and we lower it down 10 to 20,000 feet, the center of activity shifts from the deck into the control van, which is the real heart and soul of the system. So let's go in and take a look at it.
Now, this control center is obviously like the one you were in when you first saw your pictures from the Titanic. What did you feel like when you finally saw them?
Well, we were like kids at Disneyland, is what we were like. And it was really one of the most exciting moments of my life. We didn't immediately go over the top of the Titanic. We were a little scared of it, actually. We didn't know how it was sitting on the bottom. And we were standing right here when we made our first run, looking at that monitor, and we came in on the port side around the #1 funnel. And initially, we're looking out into fuzz, like you'd look into a fog with your high beam. And then all of a sudden, the side of the ship came into place, and you could hear a pin drop when we went over the ship. And it was one of the most exciting moments of my life, that's for sure.
You didn't have much time left, did you?
No, we were on a short fuse. We'd been looking for the Titanic for 2 months on the French ship Le Sorrois, 20-some days, and then we shifted over to the sister ship of this ship, the Nor, and we're almost out of time then. We're down to 4 days left of a 10-year dream, and it worked out, fortunately.
Well, what kind of a feeling did you get for the passengers?
Well, you know, there were images that we saw coming up on the television that would just grab you. images of empty lifeboat davits, images of where John Jacob Astor stood when the funnel hit him, images where the people were loading onto the lifeboat, all sorts of images that would just grab you. Pictures of bed springs, chamber pots, personal items that people had, and it brought the disaster back to you, and you constantly relived it through those 4 days.
What were the first clues that you got to what actually happened that night?
Well, when we were doing our search, we were chugging away over land, over hill and dale, so to speak, over what is really much like a snow-covered alpine slope. And we came across the debris from the ship. In fact, the first real image that we could really recognize was one of the boilers. And we then turned and found the debris continued up to the north, and that's where the ship was sitting proper, due north of the boiler that we first found.
Well, tell us about more of the things that we're looking at now, could you?
Our initial images were done with the television system of the debris area. And then after we got enough nerve up, we took the television across the ship itself and made a series of passes over the superstructure of the ship. We went over the #1 funnel that had fallen open. We went over the opening to the grand staircase where the first-class passengers came in. We did a lot of passes over the bow, over the chains, over the forecastle. We nearly missed the mast. We almost hit it. And then after we finally got familiar with the ship, we decided to lower a good old Angus down, because we'd have to go in even much closer. Because Angus' job was, once Argo had taken the television images, Angus's job was then to go in for the beautiful close-up color still pictures. And that was the most dangerous part of the whole trip, because we had to get so close. 13,000 feet of water. We had at times strong seas and winds. We had to lower this vehicle down 13,000 feet and then drive along the contour of the ship at an altitude of about 20 feet. And that isn't very easy.
Now, there's a controversy about going down to ships like the Titanic and salvaging them. What are your feelings about that?
Well, to me, the Titanic is a gravesite. It's like the Arizona in Pearl Harbor. It should be treated as a memorial, and I understand Congress has just passed a bill to protect the Titanic from senseless salvaging operations by Americans. I hope that other countries, certainly France and England, Canada, will do likewise to preserve that ship from people who will tear it apart. Like I said, we have begun to find the pyramids of the deep that have been placed there by human activity, and the question is, are we now going to revisit those pyramids to plunder them or to appreciate them?
Well, you found the Titanic, Bob, but I got to ask you one other thing. Is Daryl Hannah down there?
Well, you know, I didn't get into all the compartments. My hope is we can get back and go into some of those first-class staterooms, and you never know.
Though the rest of us have difficulty in tickling the funny bone underwater, one man who never had any trouble at all was Walt Disney. He found great humor in nautical situations, and it was to his credit that he was able to translate that humor into the form for which he was most famous, the cartoon. Here's a small sampling of some of his silly sallies in the sub-sea level strata. The first example isn't Disney at all, but it does serve to launch us into the next segment. It features a delightful Shirley Temple and a song and dance man who turned into a detective, Mr. Buddy Ebsen.
Like the sardine can, just trucking left and right, memories moving water night. There won't be a hook in flight at the Cottage Ball.
Splish splash, I was taking a bath, long about a Saturday night. Yeah.
party going on. It was a fishing and a splash, reeling with the feeling, moving and a grooving, rocking and a rolling. Yeah! Feel like jumping, baby, won't you join me, please? I don't like begging, but now I'm on bended knee. I got to get to rock and get my hat off the rack. I got to boogie woogie like a knife in the back. So be my guest, you've got nothing to lose. Won't you let me take you on a sea cruise? Ooh-wee, baby, ooh-wee, baby, ooh-wee, baby. Won't you let me take you on a sea cruise?
Simon's recent experience with the sea is something that has left a permanent mark on him, and it is that encounter that brings us together tonight for some reflection.
When the producers of this show asked me if I wanted to participate, I thought about what I could say that would mean something. I looked at poem after poem about the treacherous sea, and the more I looked, the more I came to realize that my feelings were different from those of any poet or novelist or any film I'd seen. The poets spoke of the moaning sea, of men who sank with a bubbling groan without a grave, and even of the whispering sea. But the sea I came to know last summer was different from any of those. In fact, the only people with whom I'm able to share those feelings are the 23 other crew members of our boat, the Drum, who last August the 11th experienced the ruthlessness of the sea with me in the space of a few minutes. On that date off the south coast of England, while beating into a 35-knot wind and punching into a short, oncoming sea, we capsized during the 600-mile fastnet race, hurling 18 men into the icy waters of the North Atlantic and trapping 6 of us, myself included, under the hull of the 27-ton racing yacht. The 18 men treaded water for some time before they were able to clamber up the slippery, upturned hull of Drum. But the 6 of us were not so lucky. We found ourselves fighting for our lives, using as our only means of light the faint sunlight that was refracted back from the open sea through an open hatch. Of the 6, 1 was trapped, drowning in his bunk, upside down and screaming in terror until we cut him free. Those screams still come back to haunt me. I don't think anything could ever describe the pale blue death down into which I stared through the open hatch. And now, some time after it all happened, I still find myself unwilling to speak or to relive the experience. My feelings come quickly, but the words come slower and much harder. If there is a message in my experience, it is to believe in and trust teamwork and cooperation and the will to survive. The fact that we completed that day with a full crew of 24 must bear witness to something. Or perhaps it is to fear, certainly to respect the wide oceans of the world. We are land creatures, and the water is not our element. We are not designed to go to sea. But there is a calling compulsion, seduction of some men. And it is this power that now draws me and my friends back again and again. It's this seduction which I think the following words by John Masefield may help to express. I must go down to the seas again, to the lonely sea and the sky, and all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by. and the wheels kick, and the wind song, and the white sails shaking, and the grey mist on the sea's face, the grey dawn breaking. I must go down to the seas again, for the call of the running tide is a wild call, and a clear call that may not be denied. And all I ask is a windy day, and the white clouds flying, and the flung spray, and the blown spume, and the seagulls crying. I must go down to the seas again, to the vagrant gypsy life, to the gull's way, and the whale's way, where the wind's like a whetted knife. And all I ask is a merry yarn from a laughing fellow rover, and a quiet sleep, and a sweet dream when the long trick's over.
An old saying that we fear what we are, and if the evolutionist theory holds water, excuse the expression, then our fears of the seas are entirely justified. As we were growing up in school, we learned that the water was our friend, but then we went to the movies on Saturday afternoon. And if there's one thing kids enjoy more than eating popcorn and throwing milk duds at our friends across the aisle, it's having the dickens scared out of us in a darkened movie house, and the monsters of the deep were only too happy to oblige. It's only through the perspective of time that we now realize how silly some of those scary movies were.
Do you know what whatever it is looks like?
I do not know. But whatever it is not like anything we have ever seen.
That means that the crab can eat his victim's brain, absorbing his mind intact and working.
It's as good a theory as any other to explain what's happened.
You know, the ocean's unbelievable, too. Why, the living matter in it is enough to stagger the mind.
It's also enough to stagger a lady in a white suit walking along a lonely beach.
Quick, head for the boat! Giant octopus!
You're the one who wanted to go monster hunting. How big was this octopus, anyway? That's more like it.
Don't take any needless chances. The ocean can be dangerous, Julie. Very dangerous.
But Julie wasn't afraid. Fortunately, one of her best friends was a midget who owned his own submarine.
We think we know where these things come from, but we have no idea how many there are.
Well, it doesn't really matter how many there are. Actually, they're real friendly so long as you don't roller skate over their flippers.
What's that?
It's either a small earthquake or a large crab.
But what happened to their bodies, girl? They were eaten.
Even the bones?
I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
Neither did the writer.
We'll pick up what's left.
We are here! Show yourself!
I killed it. Yes. By the sheerest luck.
This is Walker Island in the South Florida Keys, where most of the underwater residents of the living seas once called home. Over a period of almost a year, a team of scientists, technicians, and support personnel gathered, nurtured, and trained over 300 varieties of fish, crustaceans, and aquatic mammals for eventual transfer to their new EPCOT surroundings. The island is a virtual treasure trove of coral life, and the men and women who lived there prior to the opening of the pavilion tell of an experience they'll never forget.
I think a neat part of the Walker Island facility was that we had the time to just literally spend time with them. We could sit down on some rafts that we had in their pools. They could watch us, we could watch them. Just a lot of time to get to know each other on both sides, and that's what really made it neat. You know, you could really get to know who they are and vice versa.
One of the first things that the dolphins learned was just to come up to us. They learned to touch a hand target, and then from there we teach them to accept tactile reinforcement, where we rub them down, we'll rub their melon or their rostrum. And we use a variety of reinforcers that they have to learn to accept. Not only food, but they also learn to play with toys and to play with us in the water and out of the water.
And as they got to know the dolphin, they started learning some pretty interesting things.
I think the most striking similarity is the fact that they're each individuals. They're totally unique personalities. Each one has its own likes and dislikes, its own personality, really. It's an amazingly unique animal in that regard.
And they're so extremely social. They really like to interact with, each other. It looks like they play just like people do and want to get us involved in that, and that's the part that makes them so attractive, because they have those kind of characteristics that we see in each other.
Toby is very mellow. Bob got his name because he used to just Bob. And Christy is our Christy Brinkley. She's just gorgeous.
But they soon found out that they weren't the only ones interested in the dolphin. A newfound friend showed them something else.
We had an island dog that we originally got as company as a watchdog named Kai. And Kai soon discovered that dolphin were really neat, and he now swims with the dolphin. They have a game of keep away or tag where the dolphin will come real close to Kai and he lunges for him, and they just nonchalantly swim away, and he tries for him again. And we brought him into the pavilion. He swam with them in here, and he is going to be a part of this pavilion like the rest of us, because there is now such a relationship between the dog and the dolphin.
The year passed faster than anyone could have imagined, and after a last night campfire at which the crew reviewed the past and thought about the future, they packed their bags, bid a temporary goodbye to Walker Island, and began the task of moving the animals to Orlando. And when the journey was complete and the animals were safe in their new homes, the crew had a chance to think a bit about the overall picture facing environmentalists today.
Well, I think all animals are in danger to some extent. There seems to be a much greater awareness, however, now. In fact, it's not just biologists like myself that get involved in these animals, or legislators. I heard a song the other day by Olivia Newton-John. It was so beautiful, it was very touching, and it dealt exactly with this empathy, with this feeling towards not only the dolphin, but animal life. It's very, very pretty.
Time we will know what the truth is about. Oh, we don't know. They have no room for hatred, though they suffer
Over the years, skilled writers and poets have used the imagery of the ocean as a metaphor for emotions too deep to express any other way. The songwriters of our generation, who are the poets of our time, also turn to the sea for inspiration and expression. One of the best has taken these watery images and created a beautiful message of love. Her name is Laura Branigan.
If I were a river, I'd flow into your heart. And if I were a love song, you'd be the only part. And if I were the winter snow, all that gently fall and rain, I'd wish you were a deep dark earth to swallow me again. And if I were a RobFuz, for you I'd open wide. And if you were the ocean's floor, you know I'd be the ocean's tide. And if you were the only star lost in the summer storm, I'd be the sky all through the night to keep your starlight warm. And if you were the ocean sound, I'd be the ocean song. And if I opened up my heart, would you keep me from the storm? And if I were a river, I'd flow into your heart. And if you'd be the ocean, I can't keep us apart.
Another Disney friend who has walked the depths of the ocean floor and the furthest boundaries of explored space is Scott Carpenter. Selected as one of America's original Mercury 7 astronauts, Scott has also distinguished himself as a member of the Navy's experimental Sea Lab program, and he's here to tell us about his life in both worlds.
Hello, I'm Scott Carpenter. As a member of the Mercury 7 team, I was introduced not only to the world of outer space, but to a greater appreciation of how we got there. Beginning with the Wright brothers, through the great DC-3, the workhorse of early aviation, and on to the A300 jumbo jets that haul 300 passengers all over the globe, to today's space shuttle, we have seen modern aviation progress to the frontiers of space. And in a like manner, as a member of the Sea Lab experiments, I participated as man took his boldest step yet in the utilization of the sea for his benefit. And while both frontiers remain more or less untouched in the overview of time, perhaps because we live on Earth, it is so important for us to understand the
world of the living seas. Try to imagine, just for a moment, that somewhere in the endless reaches of the universe, on the edge of a galaxy of 100,000 million suns, deep within a cluster of slowly forming planets, a small sphere of just the right size lies just the right distance from its mother star, cooling in the coldness of space. Try to imagine. Now that sphere's creation continues as countless volcanoes spew clouds of gas and steam into the sky from molten mineral formations. And then that cloud-covered planet waits until finally those clouds of gas and steam condense and rain upon that planet. Deluge of such magnitude that the world's greatest waterfalls, joined together for more than 1 million years, would only just begin to approach its results. For when it finally stopped, the seas were born. The seas that would make this planet unlike any other within the realm of our knowledge. For it was there, sheltered from cosmic radiation, that life on Earth was able to emerge. There, tiny single-celled plants captured the energy of the sun and converted it into that most basic of life-sustaining elements, oxygen, creating more than half the Earth's supply. Yet these phenomena occur in only the upper few hundred feet of the oceans that average more than 2 miles in depth. And it is there, in those depths, that we are just now beginning to explore an amazing world. There, amid raging underwater storms and fiery underwater volcanoes, mountain ranges that dwarf the Himalayas, and gorges 4 times deeper than the Grand Canyon. Life forms that astonish biologists by existing totally without the benefits of the sun, relying instead only upon the chemicals found at the bottom of the ocean itself. All this and more lies waiting for us, waiting for our discovery, waiting in a world where we've spent less time than on the surface of the moon, a world we've only just begun to explore, with tools we've only just begun to imagine. Anyone who shares my fascination for the sea understands why we must protect it, because if it dies, then we die. Life on Earth is totally dependent on a healthy ocean. The sea holds vast resources, and our future survival depends on our being able to use the ocean wisely without destroying it in the process.
In the hours since this program began, I've learned a great deal about something I thought I knew something about before, but really knew next to nothing about: water. I hope it was interesting, informative, and entertaining for you as well. I know I'll never look at a fish the same way, or an ocean, or a glass of water, or a piece of kelp, or a dolphin, or even Mickey Mouse. So thanks for joining us here at EPCOT for this very special preview of the living seas. There's lots more to see and do here, and if this place doesn't hold water, I don't know what does. Good night, and may your knowledge never get ahead of your curiosity.